Hello and welcome back to Talk Franchise, Home Instead's podcast aiming to give you an insight into the world of franchising. Today I'm joined by Rob Johnson and Clare Roberts, who head up our business development team. We'll be looking at what good support looks like and what makes a good franchisee. Enjoy. Hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining me. So today's episode is all about what makes a good franchisee. We're going to be talking very, very generally about it, about different stages of the franchisee journey, and also how it affects your guys' support of them. So before we dive into it, can you introduce yourselves, please, and also the team, the support function that you come from at Home Instead as well?
Yeah, so I'm Clare Roberts, one of the head business consultants at Home Instead National Office, working alongside Rob. And between us, we support a team of business consultants, really helping franchisees get their businesses off the ground, help with client acquisition, help with just embedding that franchise model. And that's complemented by the wider team at National Office and field support. But I'll let Rob explain how he complements that.
Yeah, so I'm Rob Johnson. As Claire said, we work very closely together, leading that business development consultants team. So I focus primarily on this, really the second part of the journey. So offices that are in later stages in terms of growth, and particularly those that are looking towards multi-unit and enterprise ownership, which is, I'm sure we'll talk more about, it's just a strategy that we're pursuing more strongly in recent years. So I support those guys in particular.
Great. Thank you, guys, and thanks for being here. So we're going to go through the franchise journey, but it all starts with day one. Someone's come on board as a new franchisee. On day one, what gives you a good feeling about people?
Yeah, so I think this is the stage of the journey that I support with most. So my role in all my years of being at Home Instead is bringing on new franchisees. So I think I've got a lot of experience in that now and knowing what a good profile looks like. But I think for us, what stands out to me within our franchise arena is our culture. So it's really important that on that first day of being with us at National Office, going through the recruitment process is obviously sense checking people's profile and engagement, but spending that day with myself and some other colleagues at National Office, seeing how people engage, the culture and the passion that they've got in starting off this business, really comes across with that day meet. I have had franchisees come to us on that day who have maybe been introduced to Home Instead through someone else in the network, feeling like they already know it all. Mm-hmm. But I've actually found the value of being with us at National Office and starting to build that partnership that is crucial to being successful, really powerful on that one day. So yeah, that passion and the culture really does need to shine through on the day one.
And I suppose that'll act as a bit of a catalyst as they start being given resources and information and support from other departments comes in. That culture alignment and kind of the passion is what will carry that, I guess.
I guess I was going to say, Claire, I mean, you've done a lot more of that than I have, but I guess there's an important part there as well about people coming to that day with a sense of kind of a combination, I guess, of a bit of humility and a bit of curiousness. That people may come from backgrounds where they've had real significant business experience in another arena. They might have even owned a business themselves previously, but coming into the franchise and the particulars about the way the business operates and the model, etc., it's almost being able to put some of that aside, isn't it, and come with an open mind and being willing to hear and accept the kind of things that we're bringing, the value that we add in terms of the model. Mm-hmm.
I also think that day's one is like, oh, this is the commitment now. Yeah, so they go through the recruitment journey and it's all exciting, it's lovely, and it's that day one that it's, wow, this is now my kickstart of my journey with Home Instead in particular, but within any franchise business. So it's a really exciting day. It can be quite nervous, so you do see some people's anxiety, but it really does start to form the partnership that we will have throughout the journey and how that grows.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. So on day one, what does the support look like for our franchisees? I'm sure it develops as their kind of journey develops, but right at the beginning, what are the priorities for them?
Yeah, so again, obviously day one, most franchisees will come and spend the day with me, but following on from that, they get their introductions to some of the tools that we have to get them kick-started within their business. For home instead, that would be things like finding an office, recruiting some of your core teams. And so we'll work with them over a length of time to help get the foundations built into their business. And then we support them with doing things like new owner induction, which is where they'll come and spend time, again, with myself and the wider team at National Office, just to learn what the model actually is, rather than just reading it from a manual, bringing that manual to life and meeting the other key partners that we have at National Office and external partners that we work with, to help them really feel like they're part of something great, something bigger, because that is ultimately why they've bought a franchise in the first place, so they're not doing it isolated and alone. But I also think in those first few weeks and months, it's really important for them to know that there's a wider network out there. We've got at Homestead over 250 offices that people have been there and done it and learned from mistakes, and who better to tell you than those that are actually on the ground doing the hard work itself. So we really encourage new franchisees to go and spend time in offices, spend time with key players, get to understand what their business is going to look like. And we don't want it to be mirrored. There's a model to follow, but we want everyone to bring their own entrepreneurial spirit to the table, because that's what's going to help us continue to evolve our franchise model. And I think that support's really intense, probably for the first 6 months, until we're really sure that the foundations of that business are stable, with a stable team. And then the support will develop and adapt based on the owner's needs as they go through that journey, particularly in the first few years. I think as they get later in the journey.
So, well, with that in mind then, how do they, before we talk about how the support changes, how do franchisees change throughout their journey? I know some franchisees are only with us or with franchises generally 5, but then some 10, some even 15 years or longer. How does their kind of attitudes and mindset change throughout that?
Yeah, and so, Claire's talked about those early days, and, obviously at that stage it's very operational, particularly if they're coming in and starting a new business from scratch. It's a little bit different if they're buying a resale of an existing business. It depends on what size that business is when they buy it. But certainly in those early days, it is very operational. It does need to be hands-on. They need to be engaged with the business. Even with a resale, it's really important that a new owner really gets to understand the business, meets care professionals, meets clients and families, and really understands how that business operates, so that they can, so they can really own accountability for their own business. But also, there's a lot of that which is about relationship, and also, good decision making. They need to understand the business to really understand how to make those good decisions. So in the early days, there's definitely a much more operational emphasis to that.
Yeah.
As the journey goes on, as a business grows, as the owner becomes more experienced, they've been in the network longer, I think there is then a shift towards more strategic engagement with the business, and more of a focus on building leadership, building the team, and thinking ahead in perhaps a more strategic way. So, at the moment, we've got a big strategic focus on developing some new service areas, for example. That may be something in that particular business, even if it's a resale, they may not have done those things previously. So thinking about how do we introduce some of those services, what does that mean in terms of team, in terms of upskilling, in terms of people development? Obviously, there's financials, thinking about reinvesting profit into the business in order to grow some of those capabilities. So the types of thought processes, the types of challenges and opportunities that the owner is thinking about develop as they go through that journey, and that is why our support kind of develops with that, to mirror that and help to support those sort of different areas of thought that need to go on.
Yeah, and I think for me it's about the mindset as well. So in those early stages, you've got a model, but you've got to bring that model to life in your area, and it takes a lot of hard work, a lot of commitment. That does pay off in the value you get from that. But you really do need a resilient mindset, because the business we're working with people, we're working in care, that it's
yeah,
different.
that's a really good point. That is a really good point because this business is it is quite volatile. There will be times when clients pass away or need to move out of service, and that can have a significant impact on the business in terms of revenue, and so the ability to be resilient in that, but also accept the fact that that is going to happen and have plans, be proactive. So not kind of sitting on the beach and just leaving the thing to tick over. It needs that engagement. Now, as an owner goes through that process and the business grows, we do talk about stepping out of the operational elements of the business. Sometimes we talk about that as being, on the business, not in the business. I kind of prefer a slightly different phrase, which is eyes on, hands off. Mm-hmm. So keeping sight of the right data, having visibility of the important things, but not actually doing them all.
You're not doing it yet.
And I think that's really important. But the ability to stay engaged so that when some of those challenges come, the owner isn't thinking, well, I don't really know what's going on in my business anymore. I've got no idea. So it's that balance is a real challenge, isn't it?
And I think as well, it's about those things that an owner learns in the early stages about their business and the resilience that comes with it is making sure that you grow your team to have that same mindset as you, that same passion. Yeah. So they are the ones that are really resilient in your business as you grow and your business gets bigger, to allow you to think more strategically and more ambitiously about what the next stages look like for you, rather than having to be the one.
Yeah.
And one
of the things that I think is, we've really focused on in the last, year, probably, certainly post-COVID, is networking, isn't it? And that community engagement, thought leadership within your local community. And as a leader in the business or an owner in the business kind of draws away from the operational engagement, it's still really important that they don't walk right away from the community engagement piece. Now, they may not be the person who's going and doing all of the job fairs or the car boot sales or coffee mornings or whatever, but there's always a role for the owner to play in still having a presence in the community and having that thought leadership role. I think that is really important because we have seen some cases where owners might walk more away from that and they've really disengaged from that. And I think that can have a kind of slow erosion effect on the business because their profile just diminishes and they've not got that local presence in the same way anymore.
I just want to add to that though as well. I think, as I said earlier, it's really important about the culture and the alignment, but for me, what makes an owner really successful in this is really having a why. Why are they doing this every day? And I think that why, it may evolve, it may change, but really holding on to why you're doing this is what is most powerful when you're out in your local community. No one will sell you your business better than you, but you've got to have a real purpose to do that. And so having a really strong why to talk about, whether that be yourself or for your team to talk about when you grow locally, is probably one of the biggest things that will make a team successful throughout a journey.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, the why is at the core of the brand generally, isn't it? Yeah. And we're constantly looking for the alignment on why, but it's a good point that why shifts and changes and adapts with the growing business.
And with Home Instead, obviously we do have a very specific purpose, and that kind of why is very particular. I guess just going back to a more generic kind of franchising conversation, as a whole. I think anybody buying into a franchise needs to really know why they're doing it. You've got to have, if it's coffee or F&B or whatever, you've got to have a really clear view as why you're doing that, haven't you? Because it's not, you've got to get up every day and make that business work. You don't just pay your money, buy a franchise, go and sit on the beach and bank the checks. It's a real business that you have to drive. So you've got to have that vision and passion, whatever the business is that you're going into.
So how does the support shift around the changing mindset of our franchisees? I'm sure there's a variety of mindsets that one can end up in. So does that impact the support?
Well, at our Home Instead, we have the franchise journey, which is built over tenure and also size of business. And we often find that the support in those early stages, as I say, to build the foundations is very more hands-on with an owner, really assessing the work that is getting done within the office, really assessing that the franchise model is being embedded.
Yeah.
A lot more field support, whether that be operational or quality or marketing. So it's very much an all-round support model in the early stages. But as officers get more established and the skill set of that owner comes out more within their business, we do very much tailor the support based on the needs. So if you've got someone with a really strong marketing background and they feel like that they're really achieving that part of the model, then we can focus efforts on where they feel that it's needed. But I think even down to the discussions that you'll have with franchisees, again, I'm very operational, so it is very to the line of what are you doing? Rob probably has completely different conversations with owners who are strategic and multi-unit. You can't go into that level of detail, and you shouldn't need to with someone who's been in the business for that long.
Yeah, and it's an interesting there because we talked about a couple of things. Mindset. We talked about mindset, but also Claire's talked a little bit about kind of skills and capabilities there. So, mindset wise, resilience is key, isn't it? And that is key throughout the journey, because at any time, I'm supporting an office at the moment where they've had some significant changes very quickly in their senior leadership team within the business.
Right.
So for the owners, that requires them to be really resilient, even though that they've got two offices and they've been in the business for a long time, but they've still got to bring a really resilient mindset to that because they've got some real challenges going on at the moment. So resilience is common throughout the journey. It just expresses itself in different ways.
Yeah.
I think the other thing for me about the mindset piece is about growth mindset, because and what we mean by that, isn't just about driving growth in the business. People often think that's what growth mindset means. What it really means is having the view that you can always develop, that every day you've got the opportunity to learn something new, do something new, expand your capabilities. And I think that is really important through the journey, because as Claire just said, early on it's operational, later on it's strategic. There's things that need to change throughout that. So the ability of an owner to think, I can do something different today, next month, next year to support my business and my team is really crucial. So, they might be drawing on skills in the early days, which are very well worn for them. They might be great at marketing, so they're doing loads of that. Later on, they might need to move into thinking more about leadership development or whatever it is. That might be something they're not particularly used to. They may be less comfortable with. So coming with the attitude of I can grow into this, I can learn this, and we can support them with that. And there's ways that we can help them to take that on, I think is really crucial.
So having that kind of growth mindset, there must come a point where people see the next stage of their growth as owning multiple sites, or expanding into multiple territories. What we and other franchisors call multi-unit.
Yeah.
But you can also see a growth mindset for someone who doesn't want to expand into multiple units and want to remain in one single unit. Can you kind of explain the kind of differences there, and maybe a little bit how the support shifts for someone once they actually decide to go the multi-unit route as well? Yeah,
sure.
Thanks.
So and your initial point is really valid, that the growth mindset applies in both of those. We don't see multi-unit owners and single territory owners as fundamentally different people. We've got some fantastic owners who own a single territory. Our top growing territory in 2023 was a single owner territory. A single territory. It's actually owned by a couple. But they've really driven growth in that territory between 22 and 23 by focusing on that. It's their patch. That they really own it. They want to make a difference. Their why is very, very strong. And they've done a fantastic job. So that is a really valid. And so having a growth mindset in that context is just as important. Having said that, what you just picked up on there, Luke, was there are opportunities for some owners who see their ambition as being for more than one territory. Yeah. And, that may be because they've done multi-site operation previously. It may be the geographies of where they are that just lends itself. It might just be the scale of their ambition, that's the kind of challenge that they enjoy.
Yeah.
Whatever that is, it certainly needs a growth mindset, and it does need a different set of skills or some additional skills around being able to create I think, the leadership structure that supports multi-unit operation. Because as an owner, you know, you've got to be able to delegate. You've got to be able to grow leaders in that business that can allow you to successfully lead several businesses across multiple sites. And so the ability to remain operationally engaged is kind of removed from you. It's just not physically possible to do that across 4, 5, 6 sites or whatever it might be. So that's something that, you know, we will support with.
And it's also something that we are continuously learning from the criteria of what makes a good franchisee in a multi-unit model. So there is, as we said, our most successful franchisee of 22 has got no ambition yet to become a multi-unit, and that's great for us because they are still so committed into that single unit territory. We've got some franchisees who think it's right for them, but actually when you break it down, you're established between each other in a partnership and an open discussion that it might not be quite right for them yet. And then there's other occasions where the opportunities come along, whether that be their neighbour is selling or they've got a vacant territory, that people start to become interested and explore that. And again, it's really important for us that you go through that process with open and honest conversations and establish if the criteria is right for them to make sure it's successful overall. But yeah, it's really important that the ambition is there in the first place. And they've got the leadership and people skills to make a multi-unit work.
So what is some of the criteria or the things that you think about when someone says, I want to go for it and I want to buy my second, third, fourth?
Yeah, it's a good point. You know, Claire's just picked up on there. So we do have criteria for that, and we break those out into two buckets effectively. So we have a set of criteria which relate to the owner and a set of criteria that relate to the business or businesses that they've already got. And we do apply these criteria, you know, for somebody who's going from 1 to 2, but we continue to apply them as somebody wants to acquire more businesses. So if somebody has 4 and they want a 5th, we still apply these criteria to that decision-making process. So in terms of the business, you know, it's looking at, you know, obviously performance, commercial performance, culture, you know, leadership, what leadership team is in place, quality and compliance of that business. So there's kind of a balanced scorecard set of measures effectively. In terms of the owner, there's some really important stuff there, which I think probably would apply in other franchising systems too, where multi-unit is an option. You know, really important things like alignment with our culture. Obviously, for other systems, the culture might be a bit different, but the point is about alignment with that culture. Engagement with the franchisor is really important. You know, we need to be having a partnership.
So we've spoken about franchisees at different stages of their journey. We've spoken about how the mindset changes. Some people might want to go for multi-unit. Some people want to go all in on a single unit. The one thing that's really standing out to me is that underneath all of that is a partnership between franchisor and franchisee, and that is one of the ways that this works. There is no top-down situation. It has to be collaborative and a partnership both ways. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. You know, as you say, whether it's single territory or multi-unit, that partnership is critical. When we're talking about somebody potentially taking on multi-unit, we do apply some criteria around that in terms of the owner and, you know, being able to clearly demonstrate that partnership approach with us at national office so that we can see that they are kind of fully bought into the culture and the vision, but also working with us collaboratively, as you say, and in that partnership way. So, and actually for us, the journey into multi-unit and enterprise ownership, but by enterprise we mean 3 and above units, that's quite a new journey for us. We're still developing some of the structures and systems around that. And we are working very collaboratively with that group of owners to build out what that looks like so that we can start to evolve the support that we're providing and, you know, and other elements that go around that to help them to succeed. So I think that partnership element for us in terms of the business perspective is really important. And what we're trying to create is an environment which kind of balances innovation and entrepreneurialism from the owner with the structure and consistency from us as the franchisor. And so getting that balance that's kind of an ongoing challenge and conversation really to get that, because we want we want to release people to kind of fully express their potential and drive their businesses and grow them in whatever way works for them, you know, in terms of some of the structures that they're putting in. We're not necessarily telling them exactly how to do that, but at the same time achieving consistency and still preserving the crucial elements of our model that make us who we are. That's what really matters to us.
I think making it more around the people behind it as well. So partnership for me, it's been interesting in my journey at Home Instead how that partnership has evolved. So in the very early stages with only a few franchisees, it's a very different support structure and a very different partnership to what we have today. And we've had to learn throughout the journey as well. When COVID hit, we leaned in a lot more, was a lot more operationally a partnership than what we may be now in terms of how Rob was talking, is allowing that entrepreneurial spirit to come back. But certainly the partnership is all about the people. If you're not aligning with the vision and the culture, you haven't got the engagement with the national office team as one, but also the network. That partnership is all automatically frayed, isn't it? In a way that you're not going to get the best out of being part of something great. So in our case, something big. And something mature. So definitely it's about the people and the relationships behind that. But with the balance of expectations of what the partnership of a franchisee can bring to you at the other side of that is your business. And you have to take accountability and responsibility to make that business work, but see it as that partnership for new initiatives and to embed those new initiatives in terms of support. And be that uncomfortable friend is a good phrase that I like as a business consultant, being able to have really open and honest conversations with people, but with the result is to drive their business in the right direction and for them to see growth.
And there's an important bit as well around partnership between franchisees. So, you know, that kind of peer support, you know, so there's a partnership between us at National Office and individual business owners, but there's also the partnership between themselves. So, you know, within the enterprise group, you know, and the multi-unit group, we've, you know, created some peer settings specifically for those guys to talk about their way that they're developing certain elements of their multi-unit operations. And that partnership is also really important in terms of peer learning and being able to, you know, inspire one another and come up with new ideas. So it's kind of an all-round partnership piece, isn't it?
I think it's a good point you make, because we have lots of events throughout our calendar year where there's opportunities for peers to get together and mix together. Not only do we have our annual conference, which, you know, is a great opportunity for us to learn and engage together and also celebrate, but we have some like regional activities as well, which really does bring the partnership of local groups together, facilitated by people at National Office. So it is a real peer support, which only enhances that partnership that we have.
And going back to where we started this whole podcast at, you know, the kind of mindset piece and what you're looking for on day one, you know, we need people who have the openness and the acceptance of that, you know, people who are willing to collaborate and share and partner with their neighbours and others in the network, because that's not a competitive, you know, there's a healthy competition in terms of results, but it's not competitive from the business perspective, because obviously you've got, you know, a territory that you're focusing on yourself. So that ability to, you know, I call it kind of playing nicely, you know, people who are working together in the network to collaborate well, I think is really important.
And there must be something really powerful for people who are actually on the ground doing this, living it every day. Just to speak to people who are also going through the same challenges, because our challenges at National Office, they're connected, but they are different. They look different. And so it must be really reassuring, quite motivating for people to speak to someone who goes, I get that. Don't worry, you'll get through it.
And learn the successes. Sometimes we can focus too much on some of the challenges that any business will bring you, but actually there's so much good to learn out there as well. So why take the hard work if someone's already done that and come out with great results? Just take the great results and run with those.
It also comes back to Claire's point, focused on relationship. You know, there's owners I can think of, groups of owners who started at the same similar times. You know, and those people, they form lifelong friendships with other owners that they started, you know, people who started 17 years ago, you know, with the real kind of founder mentality when Home Instead was first starting. But the same thing applies. You can see kind of chunks of owners, groups of owners who started, you know, whatever, 10 years ago, 7 years ago, whatever, where they've got those relationships. And, you know, then that's people that they'll be friends with forever.
It's like generations.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, that's a good point. So we could talk forever about this. But I think one thing that would be really interesting for people to know, when you're coming into this, I guess there's two options when buying a franchise. There's a start from scratch opportunity in an empty territory, and there are resale opportunities when you purchase an existing business. Are there differences between what makes a good franchisee for each kind of business?
There are, yeah. I'll let Claire go first because I know she's got some really clear thoughts on that.
Yeah, there really is. So I think for the startup business, as we've said too early today, it's that resilience. It's hard work. You've got to really bring your brand to life in an area, and that is a lot of dedication. And to do that, it's the financial viability that you need to help you do that. There's going to be a couple of years of feeling like a lot of hard work but little return. The return does come, but that can weigh down on some people if they haven't got that resilience to really bounce back and drive the business forward. But the profile I see of a franchisee coming into a resale is very much more focused on the change management.
Right, yeah.
You've got to go into a business and inherit a team that aren't yours, inherit a team that have got that lifelong relationship with an owner that might have been in the business 10, 15 years prior to them. And so someone with a strong leadership, but people ability and a focus on change management is key. And I think to buy a new territory with no clients in and you're growing your own business around you, you're putting your own stamp on that from the beginning. So to come into an established business and try and put yourself in there, it's a completely different profile of an owner for me. So yeah, I'd say that resilience and change management is where it differs for me.
And I guess an owner's just coming in at, you know, we've spoken about a developing journey that someone goes through. It's sort of like you just coming in later on. You kind of skip the first bit. Actually, they could be the exact same people, and that's why our you know, our owners that started from scratch then go on to be multi-unit and buy resales and things. Yeah, exactly.
Because I think again, someone who's coming in for an established business, it's like fast tracking your journey because you've got those 10 years to pick up on and learn from the model, whilst also bringing the people with you on that. But sometimes it's really helpful to unpick some of the doings that are there and to really drive what may have been a stable business for some time into the next stage of their journey. And we've got some great examples of that, where that change management and a fresh owner coming in for a resale has really taken the business to the next level just by how they treat the business and the team. So it's a real exciting opportunity for both. For me, hard work in both circumstances, but
I mean, it's certainly, you know, it's obviously hard work starting a business from scratch. I do think there are some specific challenges that Claire's just talked about there in terms of coming into an established resale. You know, the change management piece, the building relationships with an existing team. You know, there are, in some ways, that can be harder than starting from scratch because of some of those additional dynamics. But just as Claire was talking about there, it reminded me, you know, there's a one of our offices that was sold as a resale, about 18 months ago. It was an established business, long established. Owners had been in it for about 12 or 13 years. Had a general manager in place within the business, although they were still quite present. The general manager stayed with the new ownership, and the new owners took an approach of really delegating a lot of leadership to the general manager, giving her the opportunity to really take that business forward. Right. And it's grown amazingly since that's happened. So it's allowed her to really step up into that role, to really lead that team. And as a consequence, we've seen some fantastic growth there. So, you know, the ability of a new owner to come in and take a business to the next level, you know, some of that's about what they bring, but some of it's about the skill that they bring in terms of using existing leadership and giving those people the chance to really shine as well.
Well, I've got one more question for you both. And it's about advice for people listening. We might have people listening who think franchising may be for them, more specifically that Home Instead or a home care franchise might be. What advice can you give to those people to identify whether they would make a good franchisee?
Really go with something that you're passionate about and that you're aligned with the people. So we're from a care business. There's lots of other care franchisees out there. And I know for us, from that initial inquiry from recruitment, it's about the alignment with us, the alignment with our culture. So really make sure that, A, you're passionate about what it is that you're going to sell, whatever that will be. But make sure that your culture really fits, because that is only going to strengthen your partnership as you're going through the journey.
Okay.
But also think about the good things that come with franchise. And so I think for us, the celebrations and the success that we see for our peers, having our 250 celebration, having the conferences, I think that is something really powerful about franchising that you wouldn't get as a single operator.
For me, I think it's around expectations. So, if you're buying into a franchise network, whatever, Home Instead or any other, but particularly for us, it's the balance of that expectation. So, the benefit of buying into a franchise is an established, proven business model. But that doesn't mean we're going to do it for you. So, we're going to provide you with the tools and the system and, the brand recognition and, all of that stuff. That's what you're buying into and paying a royalty fee for, but we're not going to do it for you. On the other end, if you are, an out-and-out entrepreneur who wants to create your own business and do whatever you want to do and create something completely new and pivot, on a minute's notice to something totally different next month, I would challenge you about whether franchising is right for you, because the purpose of franchising is to operate within a system. Now, as I said before, we absolutely want to create the flexibility in there for entrepreneurialism and innovation, but it needs to be within the confines of the business model, and particularly, brand and values and some of the distinctives about our service provision, personalised, person-centred care, etc., that, we hold really dear. So there's some fundamentals that don't change. And so there's that balance there. We're going to do it for you, but at the same time, you need to be willing to really work within that system. And if you can get that balance and bring your passion and entrepreneurialism to that, then it's a fantastic opportunity.
What's the analogy that we always use, that we build the car and the franchisee drives it, which I think is a good way of putting it. Yeah. So I guess what I'm gathering is that the why is hugely important. It's the catalyst that carries you through that journey, through the challenges. It improves your peer support because you're with a load of other people with the same why, and the partnership with National Office. I think it's getting real with yourself that you're not buying into something that's done for you. But rather you do have to lead it. Back to that analogy of we'll build the car and you have to drive it. And something I was thinking about as we were going through it is, we deliver care. Care has to be important to you. The why might be I want to change lives, but it's the format of care has to be important. And so it's being a caring entrepreneur. You're willing to apply yourself to that. And really make a go at elderly care. Would you say that's?
And I think as well within that and within our model, it's about the quality of the care that you deliver. You can buy a care business and deliver care, but is the heart behind that, particularly depending on how you're funded or what the structure is of your setup. And I think that is probably the one thing that why I love Home Instead and why I'm so committed to Home Instead, because in the 10 years of being with Home Instead, that quality of the delivery of care at the other end of it is not compromised in any way. Yeah. The quality will bring business and we don't do it the other way around. So I think for me, that heart of what we deliver brings the passion. And you've got to have a franchisee who really, truly believes that quality is key to driving a successful business.
On the way here, this morning, I was having a conversation with one of my owners, and I think this is a really good illustration of what you've just said. And it ties back into what we've said all the way through about hard work as well. So, your owner who's been supporting a couple at home, the lady's living with dementia. Her husband has obviously been looking after her alongside care that's gone in from Home Instead. He's unfortunately had an accident, a very serious accident, and is now in hospital. And so immediately they've pulled round, they've shifted from providing some hourly care to providing live-in care overnight, as in they've changed overnight to live-in care to support the wife who is obviously still at home and needs to be looked after at home. So it's just, for me, it was just a fantastic illustration. You know, they care about the quality, they care about the client and the family. And they're willing to put in the graft and the hard work to make that happen. Because if you're going to clock off at 5 and go at home and not clock on till 9 the following morning, you aren't going to be able to respond to that kind of situation. So for me, that just illustrates what we're all about.
And it's not an inconvenience. It's just what you
making
have to
a difference.
do. Right,
it's making that difference within
and they
the
know
business.
the clients and they know the family. You know, so it's about providing. It's making a difference to the lives of those people.
And it comes back to us. It's personal.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah.
Well, look, thank you guys. That's been a great conversation. I appreciate all of the information, and I hope everyone's enjoyed listening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luke.